Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to AJD Consultant Podcast. I am your favorite consultant, Aliyah Diani. You can call me AD. Feel free if you choose. This week's weekly prompt focuses on authenticity. The prompt reads, define authenticity. Describe how you bring it into the workplace. Share some successes and challenges. That is such a great prompt because I think that most people misunderstand, or if they don't misunderstand the word authenticity, I think they may not know how to use it within the workplace. So for me, authenticity means knowing who you are first. Who are you innately? Who are you naturally? What do you value? Who are you to the core? What do your closest family and friends say about you and who you are? What do you say about yourself? How do you feel about yourself? You have to put you first in this regard. So knowing who you are, your background, and everything that you've experienced to make up who you are as a professional or in the workplace, but now transform that to understanding that who you are may differ depending on the location, the people, whomever, right? For example, how I may show up with my friends may not be the same way I show up with a professor. How I show up just being free out in nature is not going to be the same way I show up at a symphony. So understanding that, again, who you are at the core is still the core, but there are barriers and there are social and other obstacles that shape how we show up, right? And this is before we even get to identities. This is just natural. You're not going to be screaming inside of a library, but you're going to scream outside. So I'm thinking of this as like time and place. Some folks say time, place, and manner, right? And so authenticity to me, again, starts with knowing who you are. Secondly, I think authenticity in the workplace also includes knowing the organizational culture. So once you know how the organization operates, what are some of the hidden curriculums and agendas? How do coworkers interact with each other? What are some expectations? What are some norms? How does this team communicate with each other? Are we always communicating via email or Microsoft Teams or a group message or a group chat, Slack, whatever? Just understanding how this organization functions through and through, from your work to the social interactions that you have with coworkers and supervisors and or leadership, right? So knowing who you are first and how you show up differently in different spaces, and then knowing the organizational culture then allows you to show up authentically, in my opinion. Because say if you are like myself, I think that I'm a very opinionated person. I am. I have thoughts. I have feelings. I have opinions. And with that, I know that about myself. And then if I'm going into an organization where thoughts and opinions are valued, but they must be shared in a very formal manner, I have to keep that in mind. So I still can be myself, right? I can still be opinionated, but I also know that I have to go through the proper channels in order to communicate my thoughts and my ideas. Instead of, if I'm talking to my friends, I'll be like, y'all, that ain't right, because I start talking. And I can't do that in a meeting. So if someone says something that I may disagree with, or if I have another approach, I can't just raise my hand in a meeting and say, no, that's not a good idea because this and this. No. Again, you can still know who you are. You can still embrace who you are, but you have to do it in the confines of that organization. And I think that's the lost art. No one's saying that you can't be yourself at work. You can be yourself at work. You just have to learn the manner and how it's supposed to show up, or how it can show up. And sometimes people don't want to be authentic in the workplace. Some people don't want to show up in their full selves because their full selves may not be safe in the workplace, or they just want to clock in and clock out. Some people don't want this whole, oh, this is a family, we're a family. Some people are like, I just need to pay my bills. I will engage, I will be respectful, but that is it. You're not getting nothing more, nothing less. So in that regard, that is protective. You are protecting yourself and preserving yourself, right? And even within that is authentic because you're being true to yourself and your circumstances. So authenticity is not always just showing up like, oh, I'm showing up with my lipstick and my makeup and my hair and my shoes and whatever and sharing whatever. It's so much more than that. And it looks different for each person. Some people show up in their full selves, and that is perfectly fine. Other people show up, they give you a little bit. Other people, like I said earlier, they just want to clock in and clock out. And so when you know your organizational culture, you know how to say things. So I'm going to use myself again as another example. There's a lot of things in my current workplace that I see that I roll my eyes at all the time. But I do that in my office. Like, I still have my feelings, but when I do want to make a change, I know exactly who to go to, and I have just a regular conversation. I'll check in on her. She'll ask me how things are going, and I'll ask, have there been any conversations about this and this? I think this may be a great idea, especially in my role. And I pretty much give a proposal almost on, here's the idea. This is why it can be useful and help me within my workload. What are your thoughts? So again, I am still being opinionated, right? I'm still sharing my ideas, but I'm doing it in a manner that is well received, right? Or my direct supervisor gives me free reign, and she'll say, oh, just check in with me, but you pretty much do whatever you want to do. Okay, great. So here's everything I want to do. Send it to her. Hey. And she'll give me some feedback. I'm still being myself, but I want to reiterate that because that is so important. Knowing the space, understanding the space. You may have this big bubbly personality, right? And you have to think about, does this big personality need to show right now while we're having a serious emergency conversation? So you can still be authentic to you. But like I said earlier, it's all about time, place, and manner. And so for me, that is what I think about. And know that you have to show up in a way that feels natural to you. If you feel like you're smiling in people's face too much and you're just getting drained, then maybe you don't need to show up that way, in my opinion. Here I am being opinionated, in my opinion. But do it in a way that feels natural. So where you feel like you're not pretending. And if you don't speak to everybody every morning, maybe you may not speak to them in person, but maybe y'all have a group chat and you say good morning to everybody in the group chat. So you're still engaging, but you're doing it in a way that feels comfortable to you. That is not advice that I'm giving. That's just an example. Maybe your team goes out to eat or they eat lunch together every day and that's not your vibe. But you still want to be engaged, stop by. Hey, y'all, I'm just stopping by. I normally go on my walks during lunch. I'll see y'all later. Cool. You acknowledged them. You spoke to them. You went off about your business. Because I know for me, lunchtime is very important. I walk for literally 30 to 45 minutes. That is my time to clear my mind. That is my time to decompress and reduce screen time because I'm always looking at a computer screen. And I've been talking in meetings or answering and returning calls. So sometimes I'm tired of talking and I don't want to put on in that moment. I don't want to sit at a table and try to figure out conversations. Sometimes I'm like, I just need to recharge. I need my little recharge. Sometimes you have to charge your phone in the middle of the day, especially if you've been on it, you've been on your phone, you've been whatever. It's time to recharge in the middle of the day, and that's what I do. Again, that's me being authentic to myself versus going to lunch every day with people and looking disinterested and not engaging. Like for me, I personally don't like a lot of group conversations and activities because I feel like the time spent is never equitable across the board. There are some people who are more engaged and want just to jump out and talk, and then there's 5 other people just sitting there listening. And they may have something to contribute, but now the conversation has gone so far past their initial thought that it makes no sense to bring it back to that because there was no entryway for you to jump in. And then how do you do that without sounding like you're trying to talk over each other? I've been watching some of these interviews. Like, I love watching podcasts, obviously, and in interviews. And there was one where it was a group of men that were all getting together and they were talking about being business owners and entrepreneurs and all these things. And you can just tell there's so much information and knowledge and wisdom in the room. However, it's probably like a 45 minutes to an hour show. And you can see these men like fighting to finish their thoughts before the next person jump in. Or they'll say, hold on, let me finish, or this and that. And I'm just like, see, this is why I don't like group conversations like this. When it's a free-for-all. In a meeting, I don't mind because you may be an agenda item. Or you may have time to speak, or you can ask a question at the end. You're not as interrupted. But when it's just like an open dialogue, anything can happen in those conversations. And I just personally would rather not engage. And that is me, again, being authentic. I know me. I know who I am. And I still need to be practicing my wellness. For me, like I said, I'm going for a walk. That is important to me. I have a step goal. And if I'm in traffic, almost an hour and a half daily, I need some time to move my body. I need some time to clear my mind. And again, that is what's important to me. So that's what I choose to do. So yeah, those are my thoughts. As far as challenges, I think some challenges occur when people don't understand you and don't want to understand you, and instead they impose their views onto you. That is the most challenging part of being authentic and showing up. Because, again, there are always assumptions. And sometimes in the workplace, very few people give you the benefit of the doubt or have your back just as a coworker. Instead, it's always, micromanaging, or I'm trying to get this person in trouble, or this is my competition. And I don't operate that way. I don't care about what other folks are doing. I focus on what I need to do, and I engage, and that's it. But that's where we all come from different backgrounds. We all have different experiences. This might be a multi-generational environment. So where back in the days, this was acceptable, and now today, this new thing is acceptable. And everyone's trying to find that balance and that comfort zone. So for me, showing up in a way that I may feel is authentic to me may offend somebody else. Like for me, an example. When I was in residence life, I gave my supervisory style to my students. It was clear. I told them that I'm going to communicate with you in multiple ways on multiple platforms because accessibility is important to me. If I capitalize any letters, it is not because I'm yelling, it's because I'm emphasizing something and I want you to understand what I'm saying, and this is an important part. I told them this stuff. I told them how I operate, everything. But in practice, for them, that wasn't good enough, or it was too much, or it was always something. But again, when you're supervising 12 to or more people, everyone's not going to agree. We already had to figure out schedules. So trying to get 14 schedules, including my own, on the same wave, that was a challenge. So I might have picked team meeting day that one person didn't like, but now that one person is upset with me and doing a whole smear campaign. These are the expectations. We had to meet once a week. It has to be this. It was very straightforward. I was very authentic in how I operate as a supervisor. But when you do something that someone doesn't like, it can create chaos, even when that was not your intention, even when you had the best intention for the greater good of the group and the larger group. I know I have 13 schedules that say yes and then one schedule that says no, we're going to go with the 13. And so that is probably the hardest part of showing up, sharing with people how you operate, and them going against it because they don't like it, or it goes against how they operate. And so I think those are the most challenging ones. But that's about it. What do you all think? Please follow me on Instagram at AJD.consulting and share your ideas and share your experiences. I want to know, how do you define authenticity? All right, I'll talk to y'all later. Stay tuned for next week. Bye.